Let's look at solving a cubic. Now, we have to use polynomial long division to do this. So the first step is to find a factor. And to do that, start at x is 1, x is -1, etc. until we plug it in and we get 0. So what I mean by that, firstly, let p of x equal x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6. Find p of 1. That'll be 1 cubed plus 6 times 1 squared plus 11 times 1 plus 6, which is 1 plus 6 plus 11 plus 6, which does not equal 0. So you can stop. You don't even need to know the answer. Try p of -1. That would be -1 cubed plus 6 lots of -1 squared plus 11 lots of -1 plus 6. -1 plus 6 minus 11 plus 6. Well, -1 take 11 is -12. 6 plus 6 is 12. So that has to be 0. So therefore, x plus 1 is a factor. Now you go the opposite, because this is essentially saying that -1 is a solution. So that means x plus 1 has to be the factor. So now we do our long division. So we go x plus 1 into x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6. X cubed divided by x is x squared. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 1 is plus x squared. We now need to subtract. So we go 6x squared take x squared is 5x squared. And our x cubed minus x cubed is gone. Bring our 11x down. And we start again. So 5x squared divided by x is plus 5x. Again, if you need to, off to the side, 5x squared divided by x, one of those cancels to leave. Or think about it as 5x squared divided by x, that has a power of 1. We subtract our powers when we divide, so it's 5x. So if you need to, work out on the side. Now multiply. So we go 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times 1 is plus 5x. Now do the subtraction. 11x take 5x is 6x. 5x squared takes 5x squared, is gone. Bring down our 6. And start again. 6x divided by x is plus 6. Do the multiplication. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 1 is plus 6. Subtract. 6 take 6 is 0. Now what this means, if we write it out, x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6 all divided by x plus 1 equals x squared plus 5x plus 6. Multiply both sides by our x plus 1. So we now have x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6 equals x plus 1, x squared plus 5x plus 6. Now we know it all equals 0. we need to factorize our quadratic. Now, it doesn't matter what method you use to factorize that quadratic. I'm going to do it up the top of the page. So I've got x squared plus 5x plus 6. I use the cross method. So I go x squared, 6, and I need a sum of 5x. So x and x, two things are multiplied to give 6 and add to give 5, will be 3 and 2. So that means on this cross I have 3x, and on this one I have 2x. So I read across for my factors. So I have x plus 3, x plus 2. Now you might not need a method to be able to factorize. You might just be able to do it by inspection and just be able to see it. Now for these things for this to equal 0, each of these brackets has to be 0, and that's because of our null factor law. Okay, null factor law is if A, B equals 0, either A and or B has to equal 0, because anything times by 0 is 0. So that means I've got x plus 1 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals -1, x equals -3, x equals -2. And they're our solutions. If we were sketching this, if we were actually dealing with a polynomial that was in the form of y equals x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6, then what we have just found would be the x-intercepts. One more example. Have a go yourself, see how you go, then watch the video to see if you're right. Now, I always like defining the polynomial. I just think it looks nicer when solving. So let p of x equal x cubed plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6. So start with 1. 1 would be 1 cubed plus 2 lots of 1 squared minus 5 lots of 1 minus 6. So 1 plus 2 minus 5 minus 6, that does not equal 0. So it's not a factor. Try p of -1. -1 cubed plus 2 lots of -1 squared minus 5 lots of -1 minus 6. -1 plus 2 plus 5 minus 6. And that equals 0. Therefore, x plus 1 is a factor. Now do our long division. X plus 1 into x cubed plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6. X cubed divided by x is x squared. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 1 is plus x squared. And now we're going to subtract. 2x squared take x squared is x squared. Bring down your minus 5x. And now you start again. X squared divided by x is plus x. Multiply. So x times x is x squared. X times 1 is plus x. Subtract. -5x take x is -6x. Bring down your minus 6 and start again. -6x divided by x is take 6 or -6. -6 times x is minus 6x. -6 times 1 is minus 6. So I have 0. That's what we want because we know it's a factor. Coming up here, x cubed plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6, all divided by x plus 1 equals x squared plus x minus 6. Times both sides by x plus 1. And we have x cubed plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals x plus 1, x squared plus x minus 6. We now need to factorize our quotient. That will be x plus 3, x minus 2, and that will have to equal 0. Now again, if you're struggling to factorize, if you've got x squared plus x minus 6, two things that multiply to give x squared, multiply to give negative 6, and add to give x. So x and x. On this side, one of the factors has to be negative to give my negative x, and I have to add to give x. So number 1, 3, and 2 are factors. One has to be negative. To have a positive x, it has to be the smaller number. So now that's 3x and minus 2x. I have a video on the cross method if you need to revise it. Now using our null factor law, x plus 1 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. So x equals negative 1, x equals negative 3, and x equals 2.